Listen, brother, it doesn't matter if you're skinny as shit or you're fat as shit. You have to be test maxing. And the reason I'm saying that is because I was 145 pounds when I started this test maxing journey. And I was overweight when I was 230 pounds, 18% body fat because I started eating too much food. I became bloated and all this stuff. And the truth is, your shit should be the same, bro. It really should. I'm eating a cantaloupe right now. I'm cooking up a pound of ground beef. If I was on a lean bulk, I'd be doing the same shit. If I was on a cut, I'd be doing the same shit. Why? Because you have to be optimizing your hormones. I'm getting cholesterol right now. I'm getting micronutrients, right? I'm eating clean foods. I'm not eating bullshit. And whether you're trying to lose 50 pounds or gain 50 pounds or stay the same while losing fat and gaining muscle, you should be doing the same stuff. So it doesn't matter where you're trying to go with your physique. The test maxing method literally works for anyone. It helped me literally go from a 145-pound soy boy to a 230-pound, 18% body fat guy down to a 210-pound, 8% body fat guy. Whether you're trying to bulk up and just add pure mass, recomp, lose body fat, lose that last layer, or just overall, just lose fat. As you can see, my client Mark here, in just 3 months, he was able to gain a ton of muscle and lose fat at the same time. My client Xavier, 6-month transformation without ever going to an actual gym, losing over 30 pounds of fat. And then my client Dane, who was able to gain over, I think, 20 pounds of lean mass starting at 195 and adding, he got to, I think, 220 pounds at 6'6". Doesn't matter where you are. You just need to understand that whatever concepts you apply, you need to make sure that it's optimal and that it's consistent. That's what this whole video is about. Because once you understand how to optimize where you're at specifically and you can be consistent, you have the formula to create your dream physique, to be aesthetic, to be shredded, and to be high test. So I'm going to show you guys exactly what you have to do. So you need to understand right now that this is the formula to getting where you want. Diet, lifestyle, training, and recovery. Those are the 4 elements. Diet is the biggest element out of all of them. It might be 50% here, but it might be even higher. It might be 60, 70%. I consider it, for me personally, 80% of the results. 75 to 80% of the results that I see on a daily basis is from my diet. So I'm going to break down exactly what you need to be doing depending on where you're at specifically, whether you're trying to recomp, you're trying to lose fat, or you're trying to lean bulk with your diet protocols so that you can see the best results possible. Because all of these clients, Mark, Xavier, Dane, all of them were doing different things at different points of their journey to see the best results. It's not one size fits all. And if you have that mindset or you have that belief, you're going to be wasting time. And that's the only thing that you're not going to get back is time. So this is exactly what you need to understand. When you are recomping, you need to make sure that you are manipulating your carbs so that you have good pumps in the gym, but you're not losing muscle mass and having shit workouts, because that's when you'll lose muscle mass. You'll have low energy, all this stuff. I made a video about this and I'll actually pop it up as one of the videos that you can click on. It's called the carbohydrate method, where I talk about the carbohydrate method that I created so that I can have good pumps, I can lose body fat, and I can gain muscle at the same time. If you apply this method and you're trying to lose fat and gain muscle, you will see the best results possible. Now, for fat loss, it's a little different. You want to go mainly low carbs. You don't want to go into ketosis where your energy feels like shit all the time, but you want to make sure your carbs are around 10 to 17%, ideally 10 to 15%. And that's mainly just coming from fruit. Try to keep the fiber fruits in there, frozen blueberries, cantaloupe, mangoes. Those are my go-to. You can even do watermelon. It's not in season anymore, but you want to keep the carbs low. No rice, no potatoes, raw milk, no go. If your goal is to just lose fat as quickly as possible, just keep your carbs low and your fats and proteins high, because that's what has the micronutrients, that's what has the cholesterol, and that's what's going to keep you satiated at the end of the day. Carbs are a tool, and if your goal is to just lose fat and your priority isn't to build as much muscle as possible, just keep the carbs low. And then if you're lean bulking, you need to have the cornerstone carb method, which is a method that I built myself that allowed me to go from 210 pounds to 230 pounds over last winter. And it's 25% macro breakdown of carbs. Understanding that each meal has to have carbs. If your goal is to lean bulk, every single meal that you eat has to have carbs. Rice, potatoes, fruit. When you combine protein with carbs, your body's IGF-1 production increases. That is what's going to allow you to build the most amount of muscle in the quickest amount of time when your IGF-1 is high, insulin growth factor. So you need to make sure that you're adding carbs each meal. This is why I like to do the carbohydrate method on a recomp, because you're still optimizing for IGF-1, but you're not eating as many calories throughout the day. So now that we got carbs out of the way, you need to understand where you should be at with your protein. Now, when you're recomping, you need to have 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight, all from whole foods. And when you're recomping, you want to have low raw dairy, raw cheese, raw milk. Cut that shit out, bro. If you're trying to lose fat and gain muscle, you don't need that. You need more beef and eggs. Calories and macros are everything when you're trying to recomp. So cut out the raw dairy and the raw cheese, because you're not going to need that. Now, when you're lean bulking, you are going to add that in there. 1.5 grams per pound of body weight. So raw dairy is key. Raw milk, raw cheese, higher sugars from the fruits, from the carbs. And then when you're on a fat loss journey, you just want to make sure you're at 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Still keep the dairy low. Make sure you're just getting the beef, the eggs, the shrimp is a hack if you're just trying to lose fat. And of course, keeping your saturated fats and your cholesterol high, because no matter what diet you're doing, no matter what your goal is, you need to have high cholesterol and high micronutrients. If you don't optimize for those two things, you are destroying your hormones. And this is the whole point of this video, to understand that your hormones are so important. It's the cornerstone. It's the foundation. It's the trunk of your physique. And if you don't take care of your hormones, you're going to feel like shit. You're going to look like shit. And you're not going to be consistent. And then, how many meals should you be eating a day? Recomping. Ideally, you want to be at around 2.5 meals a day. A lot of my clients, I tell them, eat these 2 big meals, and then before bed, we'll just toss in a very tiny meal to get in micronutrients and cholesterol. Fat loss, 2 meals a day. 1 big meal at 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 1 big meal, 7 p.m., 8 p.m. Easy as that. You're going to be full. You're not going to cheat, as long as you have those cholesterol and those micronutrients in those meals. And then lean bulk, 3 meals a day. You can either do breakfast, lunch, dinner, or you can do fasting lunch, dinner, big meal before bed, depending on how your sleep is affected. But that is how I would lay out the meals. And the similarities between these things is, when you're recomping and when you're on a fat loss journey, you should be fasting either way. And whether it's like a 4-hour fast in the morning, 6-hour fast, fasting is going to shorten the window when you're eating, which allows you to eat less. If I ate breakfast this morning, right now it's 1 p.m. If I ate breakfast this morning, I would probably be hungry right now. But because I woke up in the morning, I went for a walk, I hydrated with some mineral water, that keeps me satiated. I also got, the butter coffee, which you see on my Instagram stories all the time. Keeps me satiated, so I don't have to eat till 2 p.m. So that fasting, my first meal is at 2 p.m. My next meal will be at, 7, and I'll be done. Or 8, right? It's a lot easier when you're fasting. But when you're lean bulking, you kind of want to toss that extra meal in there, because you got to get the calories in. So this is what you got to understand about your dieting when it comes to what goals you have to have. And then, of course, animal-based. Animal-based is going to be the basis of all of these diets because that's what includes the high cholesterol, the high micronutrients, the high saturated fats, which is what your body depends on. A lot of people, they're so focused on the protein at the end of the day. Obviously, protein is what's going to help you build muscle, but what's going to help you build testosterone? What's going to help you lower cortisol? And those are the micronutrients and cholesterol that you consume. There's a lot of people that say, oh, eating cholesterol doesn't help testosterone. There's studies on that. Bro, correlation does not equal causation. Think about it logically. Humans would eat a ton of saturated fat, and that's when their testosterone was the highest, our primal ancestors. You need to make sure that you're optimizing for at least 1 gram of cholesterol a day, depending on the size of you yourself. If you're over 180 pounds, you should be eating 1.5 grams of cholesterol a day. If you're over 200 pounds, you should be eating 2 grams of cholesterol a day. Make sure that you're optimizing for these things because a lot of people don't do this and they wonder why they feel like shit. They wonder why their energy's low. They wonder why their sleep is bad. All these things, but it's all a derivative from what you're eating at the end of the day. And that's why diet is at least 50%, if not more. So you need to understand that none of this stuff matters if you continue to drink alcohol, if you still snack on garbage, you have cheat meals, or you eat more or less than what you're supposed to eat because, the amount you eat also matters. You can't just, eat the 2 meals a day and hit your protein and stuff, and then you're eating a bunch of extra of the food that you're supposed to eat. If you're eating too much food, you're going to get fat. Simple as that. Gluttony. Gluttony is a sin. So don't overindulge in the foods that you're eating. Don't eat a cheat meal. The 90-10 rule is bullshit. Why? Because when your inflammation is higher, that's going to set you back. That is going to set you back because inflammation goes up, doesn't go down right away. You have to burn off that inflammation and it's going to wear out of your body, but it doesn't just go away right away. You got to make sure that you're avoiding all the garbage. You have to be locked in with your diet if you want to see the best results possible because at the end of the day, I told you guys, time is not on your side. So you want to see the results as quick as possible so that when you get those results, you can go back to a diet that's, more enjoyable where you don't have to track like every single step. Like I'm 10% body fat right now. I don't track calories. I don't track macros. That shit's bullshit, bro. Shit's bullshit. But you can't be eating the garbage. You can't be drinking the garbage. No alcohol, no weed, none of that stuff. And the biggest thing comes down to the consistency. I'm showing you guys how to optimize these things, but if you don't have the consistency, you're never going to see the results that you want. For the longest time, I wanted to be 10% body fat. I wanted to have higher testosterone, but those goals were never achievable because of my consistency, right? Because consistency at the end of the day is the ultimate superpower. This is how I was able to grow as much as possible, physique-wise, social media-wise, business-wise. If you don't have consistency, you don't have anything. And for the longest time, my consistency would always be thrown off with my cheat meals, with drinking, every Friday, Saturday, I would go out with my boys. And the biggest thing that's going to throw off your consistency is your environment and your mindset. If you don't have the mindset to be consistent, how do you expect yourself to be consistent, right? And that's the thing. So many people, they look at consistency as some sort of motivational thing when you got to understand that consistency is just building bricks. You're stacking a brick every single day with your consistency to eventually get the end result. And that end result is just a checkpoint. Because I see so many people, they be consistent for a short amount of time. They hit their little short-term goal and then they just go back to their old habits. Like, what is the point of doing all that shit if you're not going to progress more and more? The goal at the end of the day is to see progress, hit that checkpoint, and see more progress, to keep going, to keep getting better, right? You're watching this video right now. How long has this video been so far? 15 minutes? You're watching this video right now because you want to get better. You want to improve more and more every single day because you aren't satisfied. That's called competition and hunger. You have to be hungry. You have to be consistent every single day because that's what's going to make you a top 1% man. That's what's going to make you the best version of yourself. from not fitting in with the average. You have to be consistent. You have to be hungry, and you have to be improving every single day. And the best way to do that is by making consistency your superpower. So now watch this part of the video if you actually want to go to the next level, because you need to understand the mindset it takes to achieve consistency as a superpower. Because I would not be in this spot right now if I wasn't consistent. You can see my YouTube videos, me posting 3 times, 2-3 times a week, every single week for the past year and a half. That's consistency. My Instagram, posting every single day because I want to be consistent. Eating the same diet every single day because I want to be consistent. It's a superpower. So now you need to understand how that superpower is going to get you to step 2, step 3, step 4. So watch this.
Where I'm at today, I would not be in the spot that I'm at if I was inconsistent. I'll say that right now. It doesn't matter how perfect you are at the end of the day. If you aren't consistent, you aren't going to make progress. If I wasn't consistent, I would still be living with my parents, maybe working my 9-to-5 job. Like, it is the only reason that I have not only leveled up my physique, but myself as a whole. Consistency is the number one thing. And this is where everyone falls short. Everyone falls short of being consistent because they don't understand that it's actually a superpower, because they don't understand what consistency actually is. And you can't rely on consistency as some sort of motivational factor as opposed to a system. Consistency at the end of the day is all a system. Think about waves versus stacking bricks. A lot of people, their consistency is like waves. You know, sometimes I'll go to the beach and there will be barely any waves. You know, oh, there's barely any motivation. But then sometimes the waves are, 10 feet high. You have a ton of motivation. So obviously motivation is going to be there some days and not other days. Maybe you went out with your friends one day and you got bad sleep. The next morning you wake up and your motivation's not as high, right? Or maybe you crushed it a couple of days and you're overwhelmed and then your motivation falls off. Motivation is bullshit at the end of the day. I like motivation because it keeps you going, but it's not something that you want to lean on to stay consistent. What you want to lean on is systems. Think about stacking bricks. You're not going to be able to build a house if you don't have every single brick built every single day, brick by brick. That's a famous saying, just brick by brick every single day. It's like, it's true. Every single day is a new brick. And if you want to build the house, which is your dream physique and your dream life, you have to be consistent every single day by stacking the bricks. Understand that you need to rely on a system and not motivation. And understanding consistency can be a little complex because people think, oh, I'll do it 1 week, 2 week, 3 week. Week 4 comes in, you fall off 2 days and then you just continue back. It's kind of simple math, right? But when you add 1 plus 1 plus 1, it's 4. But then if you add 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 0, it's 3. So people think, oh, if I'm consistent, I'll just go 1 1 1 or 1 1 1 0. I miss a day right here, 0. Oh shit. I miss a day, 0. I'm only at 3. No, that is not how it works. It's more like multiplication, and not just multiplication, but getting better every single day. There's a saying, 1% better every single day. Not only do you have to be consistent, but you have to get better every single day. And this is why I love the test maxing method, which is what I'll talk about a little later in this presentation. But it allows you to not only get better every single day through the things that you have to get done in the needle movers, but it makes you stay consistent. It makes you stay consistent. It's not like, oh, you do it this day. You do the same thing this day. If you do the same thing every single day, you're still going to be in the same spot. 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 is still 1. You have to be going 1 times 2 times 3 times 4. That's, a way higher number. And then you have to think of it like this: 1 times 2 times 3 times 0, boom, you're back at 0. This is why you have to be consistent every single day and improving 1% better every single day. And this is known as the compounding effect. The compounding effect is what's going to get you to the next level. once I understood this, I don't know if any of you guys have read Atomic Habits. I think, Tito, maybe I've talked about that with you before, but Atomic Habits, it kind of talks about that compounding effect. And there's actually a book called Compounding Effect, which literally it just explains how being consistent every single day and getting 1% better every single day is how you exponentially grow. You know, when you're multiplying a penny every single day, by day 30, it's $10 million. So just think of your inputs as that currency where, oh, you're putting in 1 cent every single day. You're multiplying that. And that's how you build consistency and actually grow. But you got to understand that when you're building this consistency and you're getting 1% better every single day, that it's a whole identity shift. Because when I was in college, and even when I was out of college, I still held on to my old self, and that's what was holding me back from actually going to the next level and exponentially growing, right? I was so consistent with going to the gym, eating healthy, you know, being organized, but I was missing the whole identity shift to actually go to the next level. And this requires giving up on your old self. You know, my old self who was drinking, you know, hanging around friends, going out to the bar, you have to give up on your old self right now. And then you have to identify your new self. And then once you identify your new self, you know, say for example, Alessandro, you know, right now you're, you know, 15% body fat, you're going out on the weekends. Your new self is 12% body fat, not going out on the weekends, tracking every single meal, hitting workouts 5 times a week, you know, writing out your day. You identify that new self and then you associate your actions with your future self right now. So your future self that's jacked, shredded, more disciplined, more consistent, understand the inputs that that future self is getting and adapt it right now. And then increase that 1% every single day. And then there's other things, you know, with friend groups. You know, a lot of people will be held back by their friend groups. If you're being held back by your friend groups, you just got to find new friends. It sounds harsh to say, but it's what you got to do. Because for the longest time, I was getting held back by my friend group, and that was holding me back from getting 1% better every single day and being consistent, which is the whole goal. Those are the two things. If there's two things you understand about this, it's those two things right now. You have to be doing those two things every single day. And then frequencies. A lot of people don't understand that frequency is what determines how you interact on a daily basis, how you think, how your energy is. Frequency is the biggest thing. You know, I just went home to Pennsylvania for a couple of days, and it's nice to see my family and stuff, but the frequency is just completely different. You know, on the weekends, my family's just chilling, you know, watching football, not really doing anything. Like, it's nice to hang with them, but the frequency is completely different when I'm in, you know, Florida and I'm with my boy Dom and we're grinding even on the weekends. You know, we're not doing any bullshit. It's a completely different frequency, and that frequency affects your thoughts. So you have to consider all these things when you're trying to become more consistent and you're trying to become 1% better. And then you have to understand the science of momentum. Because once you understand how to become consistent and you get 1% better every single day, you just have to keep the momentum going. Because momentum isn't something that just stops you, it's something that reverses you. And I mean, it's literally science. If something is in motion, it stays in motion unless acted on by another object, right? So if you're consistent 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then you go hang out with a bad friend that throws you off, it's not like you just stopped. You went backwards. Your momentum stopped and it went backwards. And to regain that momentum, it's not like, oh, the next day you do the same things that you were doing before and you're chilling. No, that's not how it works. You have to go back to being consistent day after day after day, and then the momentum stacks up. This is why you have to be aware of the momentum and the people that you hang around and the actions that you do every single day. Because if your momentum gets thrown off, it's not just a couple of days, it's like almost a factory reset. And this is why I love the test maxing method, because this is what has not only kept me consistent every single day on days that I don't want to do it, but it allows me to get 1% better every single day. The routine, creating a replicable, 4 to 5 step morning routine every single day. For me, it's wake up, I instantly drink my spring water, I go out, get sun in the eyes, I walk for 45 minutes, and then I come back and drink my butter coffee. That's the 4-step morning routine that I do every single day. And you guys might not have the exact same morning routine as me, but you got to make sure that you can replicate it every single day, because a lot of people don't understand that these small routines is what stacks those small wins in the morning, and that's what gets you that, small momentum. There's big momentum where it's day by day by day, but then there's small momentum, which is every single day within every single hour of the day. So you need to stack that small momentum. And the best way to do that is the morning routine. And then the 5 needle movers. You got to identify new needle movers every single day that progress your life and progress your progress forward, right? It's not just something like go to the gym, eat my ground beef and eggs, send this email to someone. It's like, no, what are needle movers that are actually going to make you a better person tomorrow? Yes, eating healthy and going to the gym, yeah, those are technically needle movers, but they're not that deep. They're so surface level. But when you actually go, 2, 3 layers deep of needle movers that are actually going to progress the needle forward, that's what's going to make you level up, and that's what's going to make you progress every single day, so that you can get that momentum going even faster. And then things that get done, the daily things that you not forget about, and stay on task. Yeah, Tito.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yo, I was just confused. Like, what exactly is like a needle mover?
Mhm.
Like you said, it's not beef and eggs. You said it's not working out, but like, what exactly is it?
Yeah, so one of my clients, Steven, he's not here right now, but he has a YouTube channel, and I was talking to him about this the other day, because for his needle movers, it was very basic. It was like, oh, do this homework, do that. And I'm like, bro, those are just things to get done. Needle movers are things that is almost like something that's going to be exponential in the future, is the best way to put it. If whether you're starting like a YouTube channel, or you're starting a business, or you're doing this huge project. So the needle movers are like intro things with that's going to expand it further down the road. Does that kind of make sense? Because that's a question I get a lot, is what are the difference between needle movers and things that get done? When I write things that get done, I just write down, oh, what reels do I have to record? What posts do I have to do? What do I have to eat? Who do I gotta choose? Plans do I gotta change, and stuff like that? Those are just things to get done. But when it comes to needle movers, they're almost like bigger projects, if that makes sense.
So, like, what would be some examples of your needle movers?
So for me, one of my needle movers is finish this Miro and record it as one part of this big YouTube video. So that's one of my needle movers that I have written down right now. Another one is edit this vlog, this three day vlog that I recorded over the weekend. So those are my needle movers, because I know those are going to progress the needle forward, so that I can build on top of those things down the road.
Okay, so it's like something that you can build on top of, as opposed to something that like I just got to do this. Like if I'm
Exactly.
like, for example, like
Yeah.
maybe like creating a system or like something like that. Okay, I got you.
Exactly. It's more so like branches of a tree, as opposed to, like picking a piece of fruit from a tree. You know what I mean?
I got you. Okay, yeah, and I was gonna say, like, I feel like, I mean, a needle mover, that I feel like that's like a big thing to do. Like, would you suggest doing 5? Because like, if you're doing a needle mover, I feel like that's like a big thing. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
sometimes
5 of those a day.
sometimes I'll just have it as 4. The biggest thing is, if you're gonna write it down, you got to do it, because a lot of the
Got you.
times, especially in the beginning, I used to write down needle movers that I wanted to do, and I would only do like 1 out of the 5 or 2 out of the 5. So some days I'll write down 4, but I make sure whatever I write down, I do, because if you write it down and you don't do it, you subconsciously ingrain, oh, I'm not going to do it, it's okay. Like negative reinforcement. So that's a big thing that you want to make sure. that you're doing is when you write down these needle movers that you're actually doing them.
All right, I got you. Thank you.
Yeah. And then the biggest thing that I kind of talked about earlier is that environment shapes you. Your environment is going to be everything. You know, I hopped on a call with this guy earlier, and he was saying like, bro, I drink 30 beers a day, like, or not a day, I drink 30 beers on the weekend. Like, I don't know why, like, I can't quit drinking. I was like, well, do your friend, like, let me guess, like, you're going over to your friends and you're drinking beers with them. He's like, yeah. Like, it's pretty common to know why someone's doing an input based on their environment. And when I was in school, even though I had the mindset of, oh, I wanted to progress, I wanted to be more consistent, I wanted to level up, there was still that side of me. But then there was that side of me with, you know, the friends who drank all the time, the friends who wanted to go to the bars and do all this bullshit. It's like, I still had that in my life because of my environment. So if you don't understand right now that the people that you hang around are going to affect you no matter what you do, you might be the most mentally strong person ever, but if you have one friend who wants to go out, you know, every other weekend and you don't want to look like a bad friend, you're going to do it. So you have to shape your environment of what you want to become. It's the biggest thing. If I didn't have this environment that I'm in right now, I would not be progressing at the rate that I'm at. You know, when I was back in Pennsylvania, even though I was locked in and I had the mentality of, oh, I'm going to be locked in every single day, it's still that vibration, like I talked about earlier, that vibration and that energy from my family, like on the weekends when they're not doing anything and they're watching football and they're not, you know, as dialed in as I am, even though my mindset is, okay, I'm going to keep doing the inputs every single day. You know, I'm detached from the outputs. There's still a mental shift of the environment that I'm around. So you got to understand that your environment shapes you every single time. And it doesn't matter how mentally strong you are or anything. And then the consistency framework. I kind of talked about this on my story earlier, and it's what's actually going to keep you consistent, because so many times people just overcomplicate becoming consistent. At the end of the day, consistency isn't that hard. You know, I kind of just went through all these things, you know, vibration, environment, 1% better, momentum, all this stuff. But at the end of the day, if you just do these three things, you'll stay consistent. And the biggest thing is simplifying your plan. I mean, that's why we're all tracking our meals. We're tracking the workouts. You know, we're weighing in, we're taking progress pics. You know, simplifying the daily and, you know, doing the test maxing method, right? This is why we do these things, is because it's so simple and it allows you to make these checklists every single day to keep that consistency. And then tracking the progress, you know, seeing, okay, last week I did what, 80 pounds on dumbbell incline. This week, oh, I did 85. Yeah, we're making progress. Or, okay, this week on my needle movers, I said, okay, I'm going to edit this vlog. Oh, 3 days ago, I said, oh, on my needle movers, I'm going to record this vlog. Yes, we're making progress. And then rewarding the reps, not the results. And I think that's the biggest thing. Even with me today, I get so attached to the outcome, even when I know deep down I got to be attached to the inputs in the reps. Because if you get attached to just doing the inputs every single day, doing the work every single day, that's when the consistency becomes easy. But when you get attached to the outputs of, oh, I'm not down 2 pounds this week, you know what? I'm just going to go out with my friends. It doesn't matter that much. Or, oh, I've seen good progress this week. You know, I can go out with my girl and we can have some chocolate and go to the movies and shit like that. It's like, bro, you're just getting attached to the results. You got to get attached to the inputs. And that's why so many people ask me, like, how do you stay consistent? How have you not had a cheat meal in years? It's because or how have I not drank in years? Like, how have I not smoked in years? It's like, bro, I just got attached to the inputs because I know the inputs are going to affect the results and the outputs at the end of the day. You know, if I go eat that cheat meal, I'm going to feel like shit the next day. You know, I had a friend the other day and he was saying like, oh, you know, sometimes it's good to just like he goes to like Burger King and gets like a a Whopper. He's like, sometimes it just feels good to go there and like enjoy that greasy burger. I'm like, bro, you're so attached to the results. You're so attached to the results because when I think of something like that, it's like, bro, if I have that, my skin's gonna be inflamed. I'm gonna be bloated. I'm gonna be ripping ass. I'm gonna feel like shit for not only just like right after, but the next day. And that's just because I'm attached to the inputs. And that's how you got to view food. That's how you got to view your actions, your thoughts, everything. You just got to get attached to the inputs. And that's when you'll see the results. And that's when you'll see the consistency just stack up every single day.
And if you guys are still watching this video right now, you will definitely see a ton of progress. Honestly, because what, we're 35, 40 minutes into the video now, and you're seeing the end of this. You actually have an attention span. You aren't one of these dopamine fiends who needs, action. You're willing to learn. You're willing to learn. And if you're willing to learn more and want to take everything to the next level, book a call with me in the link in the description, and I'll see if you're a good fit for my one-on-one coaching, where we will dial you in even more with your routines, with your plans, with your habits, with your lifestyle, with everything to take you to the next level, not only physically, but mentally. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe if you are new, and I will see you guys in the next one.